Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where tour players, legends, and the top instructors in the game share their stories, insights, and playing lessons. Join Chris every week as he talks with the greats of the game.
You are the smartest guy I've spoken to on radio or television in my career.
And Chris, again, you're knocking out of the park. You're like 8 under par in this interview.
By around getting research, I'm hiring your tail to be the research man. You're the best.
You're a fantastic host and tremendously respected in the golf community.
Yeah, Chris, you do an amazing job, and your listeners are super lucky to have you, and it's always my pleasure.
Chris Mascaro is the king of the golf podcast. Don't miss him on Tuesdays.
Now, here's your host, Chris Mascaro.
Hello, folks, and welcome into this week's edition of Next on the Tee. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro. I really appreciate you being here and making the show a part of your weekly golf content. With the 4 guests that I have for you this week, we're going to laugh a lot. I'm going to give you some historical content and insights like we always do. We'll get into the Player of the Year discussion, a lot going on around that. And then we'll look ahead to the playoffs, plus get into the mindset and thoughts of a couple of more great players. Who are we going to do that with? Well, as you guys know, Tom Patri is back this week, and he never minces words, so you'll get a lot of opinions from Tom and insights as well. He'll be followed by 21-time winner between the PGA and Champions Tours, John Cook. Cookie has been out on tour playing or broadcasting since the early 1980s, so he's in touch with how the players feel, plus where we've been and where things are going. Always great to get his perspective, plus hear his story, so really looking forward to having Cookie back as part of the show. It's always something that I really anticipate when I know he's on the calendar for the guest schedule. So he'll be back here in just about 25 minutes. In part 2 of this week's show, I'm going to be joined by Wisconsin Golf Hall of Famer and a longtime member of the Golf Writers Association of America, Gary D'Amato. If you're not aware of the great courses that they have out there in Wisconsin, outside of Whistling Straits and Erin Hills, 2 of the very best in our country, Gary's going to let you know about some that will make for great buddies trips, so be sure to take a listen to that. Gary has also covered every Masters for the last 31 years, so we'll get some of his favorite stories from his times there. Like I say, Gary will lead off part 2 of this week's show, and then we're going to round things out with another tour legend, Guy Boros. Guy is the son of another tour legend, Julius Boros, who won 3 major championships. Guy has had a wonderful career of his own. He's won a number of times up in Canada on their tour. Plus, when the PGA Tour visited up there, and Canada used to host a couple of PGA Tour events, when that would happen, he would win those as well. So a lot of great success a little north of the border. We'll hear about those and what it was like growing up with a father who was a fantastic player out on tour in the 60s and 70s. We all know that Phil Mickelson is actually the oldest player to win a major when he won the PGA Championship at nearly 51 years old. Many people thought prior to that Jack Nicklaus, when he won the 86 Masters, had become the oldest major champion, but it was actually Julius Boros who won the PGA Championship in 1968 at the age of 48. Guy and I will discuss that and a whole lot more when he rounds out this week's show. So a lot of great stuff lined up for you again this week here on Next on the Tee, and as always, I can't thank you enough for tuning in and taking the journey with me this week. Okay, before I bring TP into the show, I want to start off by talking about the great people over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a company that I have loved my entire life and have been drinking since I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. Iron City beer, best enjoyed while enjoying life. Now let's talk about golf getaways and buddies trip locations. When you're thinking about that, think about our friends over at the Macklemore, which is a wonderful resort located just south of Chattanooga, Tennessee, high atop Lookout Mountain. It is a casual 2-hour drive from Atlanta, Nashville, and Birmingham. The existing Highlands course is now ranked in the top 100 courses you can play in the U.S. by Golf Digest. The 18th hole is ranked in the top 10 finishing holes in the world. A second course, the Keep, is under construction and will open summer of 2024. The Keep is a Bill Bergen, Reese Jones design and features a 1.5 miles of dramatic cliff edge, with every inch of that edge filled up with a golf hole. A world-class hotel, Cloudland Lookout Mountain Curio Collection by Hilton, will open spring of 2024. Both have incredible views into historic Macklemore Cove, 1,200 feet below. You got to see it to believe it, folks. Stay, dine, and play golf above the clouds at Macklemore. Go online to macklemore.com to book your stay and play package. Now let's talk about the new P790 irons from TaylorMade. From the very beginning, P790 irons have been rooted in clean aesthetics and thoughtful design. However, their true beauty is found beneath the surface. With AI-optimized weighting and speed foam air on the inside, every iron is uniquely designed to perform exactly how you need it to. As striking as they are on the outside, their true beauty lies within. Learn more about the new P790 irons from TaylorMade by checking out their website at TaylorMadeGolf.com. All right, now back with me to start another century worth of shows is our resident director of instruction, Tom Patri. As you guys know, you can find Tom down at Twin Eagles Golf Club in Naples, Florida. You can also find him online at tompatri.com or on Instagram at tompatrigolf. Be sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel because you can watch over 300 free video lessons to help you play better and enjoy the game more. And it's always a highlight of my week when I get to say that he is back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. What's up, TP?
Christy boy!
How are you, Tom?
Unbelievable.
No doubt you are.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Before we get into all the golf news of the week, I know you recently went out to Sea Island, a place a little bit southeast of me here in Atlanta. What was it like down on Sea Island?
Sea Island is one of my favorite golf destinations on the planet, Chris. The private club on Sea Island itself, Ocean Forest, was just went through a restoration, renovation, whatever you want to call it. And John Wade, the director of golf there, was kind enough to give my son PJ and I a tour on Monday before we left the island. And the restoration that was done by Bo Wells, who's one of the great young up and coming names to watch for in architecture, did a wonderful job. It's not open yet. The members will get back on the golf course in about 2 more weeks, and they will be ecstatic at what they see. We played golf a couple days before at Seaside over at the Sea Island Resort, which is where they play the RSB. And that's one of my it doesn't feel like a resort golf course. It just feels like a great golf course. It just doesn't. That resort has such a great vibe to it. And I'm not a big resort golf fan, but that place is special, and that golf course is special and really good. And then Davis just did a couple years ago. We did the Plantation course, and he did a wonderful job there as well. So it's just a great place. The practice facility is first class. The food is out of this world. It's just a great spot, and we had a great time. And on day 2, caught a 120-pound tarpon. So it was a pretty good.
Oh, look at you!
Yeah.
Did anyone verify, or is this one of those fish stories?
I have video. If you want it. It's not a problem. See, right away you attack me. Right away, it's an attack.
I'm just saying.
Right, it's an attack.
Legendary fish stories. Everyone
attack.
Caught the biggest fish ever.
I want everybody listening to know that was an attack. Okay, just
All right, and down your way, summer season is about to come to an end. Schools are going to get back in session here before long. What was summer season like down there in Naples?
Summer season was a cross between Africa and hell. It was. I was waiting for a guy with the big ears and a pitchfork and a pointed tail to come out somewhere. It was unbelievably hot this summer. But lucky Tom, the newly renovated Twin Eagles Training Center was done, and we got to spend the best part of the winter in the training center with those fans ablazing, and it was bearable. It was actually pretty good. So But it was hot down here, man. It was. I'm waiting for that September, October, November cooling off period to come because it can't come too soon.
Does that happen? Because for me, winter comes in Florida for a weekend sometime in January.
No, I mean, so we have our occasional cold snap where it's cold for
When it's just hot. You have hot and really hot.
I'm laughing cold. Even a cold snap during the winter. It's funny on those cold snap days during the winter, Chris. I put on like a long sleeve golf shirt and maybe a sweater, and it feels great out. And you should see the tee sheet. They drop off the tee sheet like flies, like some kind of Arctic air is coming in or something. And it's gone in 2 days. It's a cold snap for 2 days, so it's it might be 62 or 3. It's actually perfect weather to play golf in, and the tee sheet goes blank all of a sudden. It's incredible.
I bet it is.
Yeah, but right now it's still pretty toasty right now.
All right, let's get into some of the golf news of the week. And Tom, now that Xander Schauffele has won a second major, the debate is on who is going to be the player of the year, Xander or Scottie. And when you take a deeper look at Xander's season, the majors that he won, those are the only 2 wins he's had so far this year. He's also had 12 top 10 finishes. Scottie won the Masters and became the only player to ever win the Players in back-to-back seasons. He has 6 wins to Xander's 2. He has 14 top 10s to Xander's 12. I say all that to say, does Xander's 2 majors trump everything else?
No, I don't think so. Right now, I think Xander's on the outside looking in. What a shame too, Chris, because it is a phenomenal year of consistency and really fine play. And of course, the 2 majors are just incredibly beautiful. But Scottie, my boy, has that Masters green jacket and 6 overall wins, and like you said, 14 top 10s. It's pretty hard to leapfrog that. Now, coming down the stretch, if Xander was to get a little warm in the playoffs and win an event or sneak into the FedEx Cup in the finals and flip flop things a little bit coming down you never know at the end, but it would take a hell of a finish to jump over him right now. It's a shame if it gets even close that he doesn't, because it's a phenomenal. Any other year he'd be player of the year hands down, right? Scottie's had such an unbelievable run. Now, that said, Scottie seems to have cooled off pretty good recently. So who knows? If Xander gets on a little roll and Scottie goes a little sideways, could it get close? It could, but it would take a hell of a flip flop coming down the end, I think, to reverse the course of action.
This week, the Olympic Games start, and we get to have golf now for the 3rd Olympics in a row, at least in our lifetime. Very excited that the Olympic golf will tee off this Thursday. Looking forward to seeing how that competition plays out.
It also has breakdancing. Just keep that in mind.
I'll have to be sure to tune in.
Oh my God!
If Xander were to repeat as gold medalist, where would that put things in the Player of the Year discussion?
I don't think it. I don't think it's real.
Not a big fan of that.
No, not really. I mean, it's speaking of limited fields, it's a pretty limited field, and I don't think anybody from Paraguay or Somalia is going to really factor into world rankings. So I don't see it being a really. Listen, it's a great honor to be an Olympian, and the gold medal will be phenomenal. But how many really, truly quality players did you beat to win that gold medal? I mean, a handful maybe, right? Really, in the grand scheme of things compared to a PGA Tour event. So I don't see that moving the needle a whole lot. And I'm sure the people out there are gasping for air right now and hate what I'm saying, but I just don't think it moves the needle a lot.
So, I agree with you. If we look back to the last Olympics, when Xander won, or you go back before that to Justin Rose. But I mean, hey, look, this field isn't that bad. I mean, again, if you look at the U.S. team, along with Xander and Scottie, you got Colin Morikawa and Wyndham Clark. But John Rahm,
Wyndham Clark's playing really good, isn't
he? Yeah, I was surprised he made the team. But again, this is on world golf rankings, right? Yeah. That's not on points. It's not anything. It's just on the world golf rankings, and he's number 5. So say what you want.
I love that computer.
I know. But you got John Rahm playing for Spain. He's coming off his first Live Tour victory. You got Rory and Shane Lowry playing for the Irish team. You got Ludvig Åberg playing for Sweden. Victor Hovland there for Norway. Hideki Matsuyama for Japan. Tommy Fleetwood for Great Britain. Jason Day for Australia. And that's just to name a few.
Okay,
So obviously they got 4 players each. But
so tell me how many players are in the field total, and then how many players you think are really world class. It's kind of like a watered down Masters. And I'm not trying. And listen, you and I love the Masters, but it's a very small field with a very small gathering of really good players within that small field. So yeah, there's some quality players, but there's not a tremendous amount of depth to the field. And it's not 150. It's not 156 of the best players in the world going at it. It's just, if there's 100 players in the event, there's probably 20 really good players, right? So you could do a really nice skins game on Monday at the club with that. I mean, it's not a PGA Tour event. Let's face it.
John Rahm has come out this week and says that he thinks that the countries should be allowed to pick who they want to represent them. What are your thoughts on how the team gets picked? Do you think it should stick with the World Golf Rankings and the top 4 from your country, wherever they fall in those rankings, are the ones that represent them? Or do you think the country should have an opportunity to decide who they want on their team?
I kind of think that has a little validity to it. I mean, it's a great honor to represent your country. So who in the country picks those 4 players? And now let's go to that. So in the U.S., who would pick those 4 players?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. Does that fall on whoever is the head of the PGA of America in this country, and then whoever is the leader of the PGA or the rating bodies in those countries? That's a lot to put on somebody, but maybe that is where it belongs. I don't know.
It's a great comment by John. I don't think John thinks these things through all the time. He's done this before. Great idea. I kind of like the idea, but my question is, okay, who in each country has the power, if you will, to make that decision? Who do you put down? You have the USGA, you have the PGA of America, you have the PGA Tour, you have the players themselves. They vote. I mean, how do you do it?
Yeah.
You tell me, pal.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the Ryder Cup. As since the last time we spoke, Keegan Bradley, right, has been named the U.S. Ryder Cup captain. Webb Simpson was his first pick as an assistant captain. Oh, by the way, both of those guys were passed over last time by Zach Johnson. What do you make of these 2 guys being selected to run the team?
So your first reaction, and not necessarily you and me, but I think the first reaction, and it's I can validate the reaction, is it's a payback, right? It's a good old boy network kind of snubbed Keegan, and let's face it, Keegan, I thought got the raw end of that deal. Webb maybe not so much, but Keegan certainly. And you can make a big argument why Keegan should have been picked over Spieth, could have been picked over JT, and even you could make an argument for Lucas Glover back then. But I just think it's a really peculiar pick. We haven't had somebody that young as captain. We haven't had somebody that's been that active still playing as captain. And you make the argument, he knows Bethpage Black so well, St. John's, New York connection, yada yada yada. It feels kind of strange to me. I have nothing. I don't have anything against Keegan at all being the pick. I just think it's part of the story is not being told. I got to believe that if you close the door and poured truth serum down everybody's throat, there'd be some interesting comments that came out how that decision was made. It just doesn't. It feels strange to me. That's all. It feels a little off to me.
Yeah, it's the same for me, Tom, because again, he was passed over last time by Zach Johnson. They say Zach Johnson was actually the one to call him and let him know that he was going to be the captain. But when you think about the players that are on the team, and I would think right now, the same players that we believed were on the outside looking in or should have been, you had questions about JT, you had questions about Jordan Spieth. Both of those guys were chosen. Keegan made his opinion known that, hey, I'm not a part of the boys club. I'm not going to be on this team because of that. Well, now he's captain. What do you do if for whatever reason, late this season, early next season, both of those guys get hot? and now play their way into top 12. Again, you don't have to pick outside of 6. You get to pick the top 6 or automatically in. Then he gets his 6 captains pick. But if those guys get hot and they're inside the top 12, wouldn't that be odd to have those guys on the team? And now you're trying to lead those guys. And again, you can try to rise above it and all that sort of stuff. But now you're looking at guys in the eye that, well, I should have been on the last team instead of you two, but now you're on my team, so we're going to do that. It just feels like that room would be odd.
And what if, and this is just a what if, and I'm not saying it's going to happen. What if he snubbed those 2 guys and he didn't pick either one of them?
Right. Yeah. 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 It just feels like to me it's going to be an odd team room if those guys are involved, or any, to your point, if you snub both of those guys, then you get all the scuttle. But I don't know. I get it to your point. Keegan makes a lot of sense. He's from that area. He's got a lot of history at Bethpage and all of that. It just feels like you're setting yourself up for some team rooms that could be very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, and let me go back even a step further. I gotta believe there's more to the story than Tiger turning it down just because of the live situation, and he's in a lot of meetings. Can you imagine at this point in his career, at Bethpage Black, where he had one of his great victories, that he takes a pass on being a Ryder Cup captain?
Yeah.
Something's missing there for me too.
Yeah, no, 100%.
We've already forgot that part of the story. We're so focused on Keegan. My head is still on Tiger turning the Ryder Cup captaincy down because of live meetings. There's something not right about that, to me.
Yeah.
I think
I agree.
There's a lot of funny parts to this whole thing, if you ask me.
Yeah. No, well, let's take that a step further, Tom, because to your point, I mean, you go back to, Jimmy Dunn. We know Jimmy Dunn walked out, kind of quit right on the spot because there was no substantive movement in those talks. All of a sudden, Tiger's too busy dealing with these talks.
And Chris, in the last, I'll give you 6 or 8 weeks, have you heard anything about the talks? Anything?
No.
I mean, nothing, zero. I mean, it's like, you can hear a pin drop. I mean, it's a weird, it's a whole weird dynamic to me. Keegan in, Tiger out, live. I can't do it. I don't want to be the captain of the Ryder Cup. Is he 46 now? 47?
Tiger's 48.
48, and clearly in the twilight, it was back 9. And
right.
Bethpage Black, New York, big media center, turned that down, and it doesn't. How much Sunday Red could you sell at Bethpage over the weekend? How much?
Right.
If you win the Ryder Cup, how much Sunday Red could you sell at Bethpage over the weekend in New York?
Right.
Back up the Brinks truck. Here we go, boys. It's a weird deal, man. If you ask me, everything's weird about it.
Yeah, I agree. So, as you alluded to a moment ago, we've got the playoffs, if you will, coming up after the Olympic Games. One more tournament prior to that, but the top 70 players in the FedEx Cup standings will get in. Then we can pare that down to 50. Then we go down to 30 for the Tour Championship here at East Lake in Atlanta. Are you interested? Are you interested to see how these playoffs play out? Or now that we have gotten through the 4 majors, are you like, time to move on to playoff baseball, and football starts here in a few minutes?
Well, the only reason I'm interested is because I'm 73rd right now. I'm trying to get my midterm. I mean, Chris, I have never been a fan of the playoffs in golf. The playoffs, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It's a big time sponsor for the tour, a big time money dump for the tour. It's a whole media blitz for the whole year. The FedEx Cup points, but I used to love when the last event was at Disney and the top 25, 125 were going to keep their card, and there were guys, 100 through 156 or 160 playing at Disney, scratching it out, clawing it out that last week to keep their card. I used to watch that tournament every year because it meant something about guys surviving and keeping their career going, And now you have the top 70 in the world who have made $80 trillion all year long. And they're playing the last four events for another $80 trillion. And I say this every time we have one of these discussions. I guess I'm too old. I guess I'm too passe. I guess I'm too, traditional or whatever you want. I'm a dinosaur, but it just doesn't feel right to me.
So take that a half step further. That doesn't feel right to you, but we've got these events now during the season where we have these signature events where it's limited cuts, right? They're kind of following the principle, let's copy what Liv is doing. We're not going to go down to 48 players or 54 players, but we're going to have limited cuts. We're going to have these elevated prizes, right? You got $20 million tournaments. It used to be $8 or $9 million purses. Now they're $20 million purses. So you've got these limited player events going along throughout the season to get you to a limited player event in the playoffs. To your point, it feels like to me that the field and the opportunities are actually shrinking. I know we're going to have the wraparound season, and that is for players 71 through whatever. But I don't know, but Tom, the whole thing feels odd to me for what we're doing. We're trying to grow the game, yet we're limiting fields throughout the season. That seems to be counterintuitive to me.
Chris, amen. You said it perfectly. I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but I've got a couple of friends out there that are really struggling right now to keep their card. And, the opportunities have shrunk tremendously for those guys, and they're good players, but they've had a rough stretch. And where do they gain any traction? Where are they going to, make it up and make the kind of money necessary to jump 20 or 25 places? It just doesn't seem. It's just not the same. I loved it when the last event was at Disney. There was Mickey Mouse giving the trophy out at 18, and some guy went from 137 because he shot 63 the last day, go to 124 and keep his card. It was like, how cool was that?
Yeah.
Watch that happen. We don't see that anymore. We don't have that same feel of survival.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I get, the fall season is for that. It's for player 71 on up. But to your point, it doesn't seem like, because the guys that kept their card were trying to get inside that 125.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know, Tom, the whole way that this has been put together and how we are perceiving golf tournaments anymore and signature events and $20 million purses and all that sort of stuff. It feels like we have taken a different turn on things. Instead of focusing on the players and those guys getting in, it feels like we're all about trying to figure out how to raise more money and how to raise purses. It's more about the dollars than it is about the players. And that feels wrong to me.
It does. Chris, I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, I'm with you 100% on this one. And you know how often you and I agree on things. Well, we definitely agree on this one. I mean, whether it's the way the tour is being run now, whether it's the rule changes by the USGA, whether it's, there's so many things that, why are we changing a product and a game and a competition that really wasn't at fault? Why are we making so many changes in so many areas to a game that really was pretty damn good the way it was?
Yeah, because we panicked when Liv came around, so we figured we had to do it. We know what it reminds me of, Tom? Remember back in the 80s when there was New Coke? Because Pepsi had like 0.1% of the market, and all of a sudden people Pepsi commercials and Michael Jackson with Pepsi, so Coke had to follow what Pepsi did. That's what I feel like the PGA Tour is. It's new PGA Tour. Because
remember when we dropped it over our shoulder and we couldn't watch the drop? You dropped it over your shoulder. Do you remember? Are you too young for that?
No. I remember for sure.
So now we drop it from our knee, and we can find this really good-looking line, kind of scout it out, and drop this thing really softly. And, the idea of the drop was you weren't entitled to any kind of special line, right? You had dropped it over your shoulder and couldn't see what was going on. But we had to change that too. I mean, that's just an example,
Yeah.
I mean, why are we doing all this? The game was great the way it was. What are we doing?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, It just feels like, Live came along and they've got, 100,000 people that watch. So we have to change the PGA Tour and the money and everything about it, have signature events and lose sponsors and all that sort of stuff because somebody else had 1/10 of 1% of the viewers. So we had to change everything. And it just doesn't make any sense.
And let's think about this. Have you watched any Live golf this year?
I've watched a little bit of it, I have to admit, just to see what it's like. And I've got a good friend over there. So
How much have you watched, Chris? Total minutes?
an hour.
An hour for the season, right?
Right.
I've never watched a minute of Live golf in my life, and I never will. And by the way, do you know how? Do you really know? You know who's who on the Live money list? Who's won how much? Anything?
Oh,
any
no.
No, right? Either do I. Do you know the name of any of the events on the Live Tour?
No.
Do you know who finished third last week? I mean, we can go on, right? So those guys have made themselves, with the exception of showing up at major events, and only a handful of them have gotten to play in major events. Those guys have made themselves instantly irrelevant, right? Do we really know what kind of year Cam Smith is having on Live? No fucking idea, right? No idea, right? So what's the panic about, right? So if XYZ player wants to go to Live and do a money grab and be irrelevant, be my guest. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Okay? I mean, why? And then shame on the guys on the PGA Tour. We're not going to use any names right now, but they use it as a way to lever the tour. Hey, you have to play for bigger purse. You have to give us more special events. You have to elevate this. You have to elevate that. You have to take care of the stars. We're the stars. But then the guys who have been the heart and soul, the meat and potatoes of the tour, the guys that really fill the field and make up the 156, they're getting screwed right now.
Right.
They're not playing for those purses, and the opportunity to move up is so difficult. It's unbelievable. It just tastes bad, man. It tastes really bad.
Right. So let's put a bow around all of this that we've been talking about. So much about what's happening now on the PGA Tour feels bad. We got to get back to a place where it feels good.
No, I agree.
And I don't know what the path back to that is.
I don't see it either.
I would certainly, getting back to the conversation with Tiger and not having time to be the Ryder Cup captain. I hope it's not just he's having conversations with Yasser Al-Rumayyan, but they are really talking about, as a policy board, how do we get back to the place that we used to be instead of everything being about the money.
Yep.
Right? I mean, the PGA Tour, and you've talked about this in previous episodes, the PGA Tour used to be about the charity and how much it gave back to the local communities and all of that sort of thing, right? We got to get back to it feeling good. And I tell you what, we badmouth Live a little bit, but the only thing that has felt good to me this year around PGA Tour golf or professional golf is Bryson DeChambeau at the U.S. Open. That felt good to me, and how he interacted with the fans and how they responded to him and what that whole thing was like. To me, that is the moment of the PGA Tour. I get that Xander won 2 majors. I get that, all the wins that Scottie's had and the Masters and all that sort of stuff. And I had really great feelings about Scottie and, has a family now and all of that. That's wonderful. But to me, the moment of professional golf this year happened at the U.S. Open, and everything else, I'm waiting for something else to feel good.
For me, as a professional who had a dream way back when, golf was competing was never about, hey, I want to go play the tour to get rich. It was about, I want to win tournaments. I want to win something. I want to win an event. It wasn't about, hey, I want to play in that event because it's a $20 million purse. I want to win a golf tournament. I want to win an event, and I want to have my name on a trophy. I want to accomplish something. It was never about, as a kid with a dream, as a college player with a dream, it was never about how much money I was going to make. It was like, I want to go compete against the best players in the world and win a tournament and beat them all. That's what it was about. And the money was a byproduct.
Right.
Now I don't think these guys give a shit about if they win an event or not. I mean, I guess they care about the majors, but do they care about the Canadian Open? Do they care about the Byron Nelson? Do they care about the AT&T? Do they care about San Diego? Do they care about, Bay Hill. They didn't really care about those. I mean, like, I want to win that. I really want to win that event. I don't feel that at all.
Well, those are signature events, but I mean, I don't know. And I certainly can't speak to that, but I tell you, getting back to feeling good about that. Here, I tell you what, here's the other thing that I feel good about in professional golf is the guys out on the Champions Tour, because I think they play for the joy of the game.
No doubt. No doubt.
Right. I'll tell you, when you talk about, you ask her, how much live golf have you watched? Not very much. How much PGA Tour golf have I watched outside of the majors? Not very much. But I watch the Champions Tour every week. And the reason I do that is because I know those guys, and I know they play for the love of the game, and they're having fun out there. And they're very interactive with the fans as well. I here at TPC Sugarloaf, getting to see them at the Mitsubishi Classic. They're interactive. They're around the fans, and they appreciate the fans. And I love that. And again, I loved it from Bryson. But those are the guys that I think play for the sheer love of the game. And that, to me, feels good when I watch them out there smiling and having a good time. I just wish we'd get back to more of that on the PGA Tour and talk about that more than we talk about $20 million purses. Because to me, that is driving people away from the game.
You know what? Again, I agree with you. I agree 1,000%. You know, just again, if you poured truth serum down a lot of guys' throats on the Champions Tour and said to you, "What do you think about what's going on back on tour and with Liv?" I think you'd hear some really, really disparaging comments. You know.
Yeah. All right, Tom. Before I let you go, remind our listeners how they can stay up to date with you, my friend.
Chrissy, let's talk about next on the tee. Let's talk about Chris Mascaro. Let's talk about, for example, great guest. You have John Cook on tonight, don't you?
I do. John's coming up next.
What a great guy and a great professional. And you know, there's some guy that's truly traditional and played the game that was supposed to be played. Let's talk about all the great people you have on and what great thing you do by bringing this to everybody every Tuesday night. And the fact that you're kind enough to have an old guy like me on 101 times. You must be a kind soul.
I think that to myself a lot. But,
yeah, I'm sure you do.
TP, you're the best, my friend. I can't wait to catch up with you in a couple of weeks.
Love being on with you, pal. Have a nice night.
You too. See you, Tom.
Bye, buddy.
That's a great Tom Patri, folks. And again, you can follow him on Instagram at Tom Patri Golf. His website is tompatri.com. And be sure to go out and subscribe to that YouTube channel and get those free playing lessons and tips for yourself. He is just the best. Not only as an instructor, but just as a friend and a human being. I can't wait to catch up with him again soon. Coming up next is the great John Cook, one of my all-time favorite guests here on the show. Before I bring Cookie in, I was talking with Eddie Dry, VP of Domestic Sales for Strixon Cleveland Golf, at the PGA Merchandise Show earlier this year. And I said, Eddie, I like your CBX full-face wedges. How can they help an average player like me play better? Here's what he had to say.
An average player, I use one, and I'm in some lies that you can't even believe. And I need all the help I can get. And the face is bigger, and the grooves go all the way up and all the way out to the toe. So if you hit it on the toe, you miss it, bam, there's a groove. So I like that. So I carry a 58.
There you have it, folks. Try the new CBX full-face wedges from Cleveland Golf. I also want to give a shout out to my friends over at On Point Golf and their great On Point ball marker. Get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only 3-dimensional ball marker out there with alignment technology and a removable coin that is approved to use according to the rules of golf. As you know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with On Point, engage with your 3-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and you're going to lower your scores. Do what the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals, and amateurs alike are doing now. They use the #1 ball marker in golf and they lower their scores. You know Ken Duke and Thongchai JD. They won for the first time on the PGA Tour in 2023, and they were using an On Point ball marker. Get yours at onpointgolf.us and make more putts. And oh, by the way, you can also customize the removable coin for any club, event, or corporate outing. They make really great tee gifts and custom products. That's also going to help lower your score. I use On Point ball markers. Mine is black and gold, 3D black golf ball with a gold line down the middle to help me line up my putts. It's like having a 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let it help yours? Again, onpointgolf.us. See what I'm talking about? Order yours today. All right, now back with me is 21-time winner between the PGA and Champions Tours, and that is John Cook. Let me remind you a little bit about Cookie's background. He's from Toledo, Ohio, but grew up in Southern California. Played his college golf at Ohio State, where he was a 3-time All-American, and he helped them win 3 consecutive Big Ten titles from 1977 to 79 and the 1979 National Championship. John won 6 individual titles while he was there at Ohio State. He also won the Les Bostad Award for the lowest stroke average in the conference each year from 1977 to 79. And he was inducted into the Ohio State Hall of Fame in 1986. John won the U.S. Amateur Championship in 1978, finished second to Mark O'Meara in 79. He won several amateur championships during his college career, including the California State Am in 75 and the Ohio Am in 78 and 79, and then he turned pro a little bit later on in 79. He won his first PGA Tour event in 1981 at the Bing Crosby National Pro-Am. He won again in 1983 at the Canadian Open, beating Johnny Miller in a playoff. John has 7 top 10 finishes in majors. He was named the 1992 PGA Tour Comeback Player of the Year. When he won the 1996 FedEx St. Jude Classic, he broke the lowest 54-hole total record by shooting rounds of 64, 62, and 63. In 2013, he was inducted into the Southern California Golf Association's Hall of Fame, and I couldn't be more excited that he is back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Cookie, thanks for coming back on the show.
Chris, good to be with you. Thanks for having me. That Tom Patri, that was I was listening into a lot of that. He's he's spot on a lot of what he says.
Oh boy, don't let him hear you say that.
Don't let him hear
it out loud, Cookie. Help me out, brother. Don't do that.
So funny.
So what stuck with you though? What Tom was talking about? What hit you that said, you know what, he's right?
Oh, he's just real passionate about the PGA Tour and where golf is, where it's going, where it's gone. I think he's pretty spot on a lot of that. We go back, and thank you so much for that great introduction. You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden that I actually did some really good work in my career. So I appreciate that. But like he said, I turned pro in late 1979, went to Q school. I could have, out of Ohio State, I could have gone back and finished my senior year. I could have graduated with a degree in finance. I could have had a great opportunity for employment right there in Columbus or around because of the great alumni association that Ohio State has. Maybe I could have been a career amateur. I don't know, but I certainly want to test, my water. I want to test the waters and play professional golf. Newly married. Jan and I set out on this journey. And it wasn't to get rich, like he said. It was to play golf. And it was to compare my skills to the greatest players that probably ever lived. Hall of Famers, major championship winners, everywhere you turned. That's who I was competing against. And, I won a couple times and I lost a few times, and then I won some more and I lost some more. But it was never about the money. It was never about the cash. And I'm just sitting here thinking, and I think about this all the time, that there's so very, very little emphasis on winning nowadays. It's about, making a lot of money with 1 or 2 good finishes during the year. We had to finish in the top 10 to make a Ryder Cup team or get Ryder Cup points. And it's a different world. Definitely played for the love of the game. I still play for the love of the game. And your kind words about the PGA Tour champions, the Champions Tour, I think that those players do play for the love of the game. They don't have to play golf right now. They're in their 50s. They're very wealthy. They've had great careers. And there's no need for them to play. But you know why they play? For the good of the game, for the love of the game, and for the entertainment value that they bring to each and every single week of the PGA Tour Champions schedule. That's what the people come out to watch. Are there tens of thousands of people every week? No, there's not. But the people that come out to watch really enjoy the great camaraderie, the great skills that these players still employ in their 50s and into their 60s. And you know what, Chris? That's why we play the game.
So yeah, getting back to some of the things that Tom and I were talking about, Cookie. I mean, it feels too much like the PGA Tour is all about the money now. The signature events, limited fields, $20 million purses. It just feels like there's too much emphasis on the amount of money, and they've got to be able to compete with Live. And getting back to some of the things that Tom was saying, it never used to be about that. And I don't understand why they are trying to compete with Live, because they'll never be able to compete with the amount of money that Live and the PIF can throw into those tournaments. It should still be about, like you said, winning tournaments. I remember Jack Nicklaus used to always say he never played for the money, he played for the trophies, because if he had enough trophies, the money was going to come. It feels like we're the reverse of that now.
It's all reactionary, Chris. It was Jay Monahan's reaction to Greg Norman and Liv. This is something that Greg had in his mind, in the early 90s. Brought together a lot of players to have a meeting. He wanted to pick brains and check the temperature of the players on supplementing their income. We weren't playing for a ton of money. We're doing nicely. If you had a nice year, you did nicely. You didn't set yourself up for life. I can promise you that with one good year like they do now. But certainly he wanted to test the temperature of the room and what the players were thinking. And it was intriguing the way he was setting it up. But it was clear that Tim Fincham was going to say that if you even try to supplement your income by playing in any of these events, you're no longer welcome on the PGA Tour. And that, we kind of scratched our heads and looked around the room a little bit, or, that was kind of the message that was going to be sent to us. And we said, well, I don't want to do that. That the PGA Tour gave me this opportunity to play this game and to become a PGA Tour professional, win golf tournaments. And I wasn't going to give that up for anything.
Taking this in a little different direction, John, as I was saying to Tom, to me, the best feel-good moment on the PGA Tour this year was at the U.S. Open in Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah.
So that sort of mixes a little bit of Live with the PGA Tour, but to me, that was the best part of it. What are your thoughts? Have you seen other moments that measure to that, or is that the best moment we saw this year?
Not this year. On a personal level, seeing Xander, break through for a couple of major wins. On a personal level, I've gotten to know Xander very well through Patrick Cantlay, they are super good friends, and I've been around Xander quite often. Gotten to really like the guy, like the kid, like what he's all about. So that, to me, on a personal level, yes, that was it. But like you said, the feel good moment, I believe too, is Bryson, and him getting up and down on the 18th, 72nd hole at Pinehurst from whatever his 50-yard bunker shot, is amazing. And what he did and how he's handled himself and how he's kind of rebranded himself to be that good guy, maybe that liaison between the PGA Tour and Live. He's trying his best. He really is trying his best. He's easy to like nowadays. I know earlier on, maybe he was, a little, I'm just going to say he was maybe a little bit questionable just because he was a little different. He was a little odd. But he's turned that into something very intriguing. And I think a lot of people really understand what Bryson is trying to do with his YouTube channel and, trying to break 50. I think that's really fun to watch, actually. He's very personable now. I have spent a bit of time with Bryson. We've always had great chats. So I would agree with you as part of a feel-good moment. Definitely Bryson, because he's engaging now. He's engaged the fans. He's engaged the brand. He's engaged everything. He's trying his best to be that guy, and I commend him for it.
You mentioned his shot on the 72nd hole, that 50-yard bunker shot. Is that the hardest shot in golf? What was your thought when you saw him lining up in there, knowing he had to get up and down to win?
Well, yes, it is the hardest shot in golf, and now just add the 72nd hole of the U.S. Open to the equation. Also, if he catches it a groove low, he sends it into the clubhouse at Pinehurst, because the clubhouse is only about 10 yards over that green, and we all know what can happen with a 50-yard bunker shot. You can chunk it, or you can send it. And if he sent it, it was going to be rattling off somebody's salad up there on the porch up there, watching the great 18th hole there at Pinehurst. So it was a wonderful shot. I mean, under the extreme pressure situation, and to see him pull that off, that's a professional. That's why we play this game. That's why that's why we have been, and they are now the elite of the game. And it was so refreshing to see that.
Speaking of feel-good moments, I want to go back into your career a little bit. In 1998, you won the Byron Nelson Classic. I know how much Ken Venturi meant to you as a mentor and a teacher. How much did it mean to you to win the tournament that was hosted by his mentor?
It's very interesting. I get asked this question a lot. What's your favorite win? And I say every single one of them are special. Every single one. One doesn't stand out. That one right there, though, I think, because of what it meant to Kenny, what it meant to Byron when I walked off that 18th green. I was in the second group. There was a group behind us to finish, but I basically had won the tournament. And just walking up the stairs and shaking Byron's hand, he couldn't say anything. And I'll never forget the moment. It gives me chills right now thinking about it, because we'd become not close, but very good friends, obviously, with my connection with Ken and their connection together. I could see in his eyes that it meant something. And, then to, give Peggy a hug and, go sign my card and then go back down onto the green to receive the trophy from Byron, with daughter Kristen and son Jason right next to me. Daughter Courtney and Jen could not make it during that weekend, but to have them see me with my mentor's mentor, I think was special to them, and that meant a lot to me. So, winning that event was probably I think the most special one. They're all special. They all have their own meaning of what they were in my career, in my life, what it meant to my family and friends. The Bob Hope Classic wins were so fun and so great. To win the Byron Nelson, though, with Byron still alive and Kenny, watching on television, was pretty darn special.
John, like I mentioned in your intro, you set the 54-hole record at the 96 FedEx St. Jude Classic. Was that one of those stretches where you visited what we call the proverbial zone? Did everything just look easy and come easy to you that week?
Yeah, it was pretty nuts, Chris, to tell you the truth. I was building up to that, I think. Early in the season was not very good. To be quite honest, the start of my year on the West Coast was horrific. Was not playing well. I was really up in arms about what I wanted to do. Is this worth it? I was miserable. I had a great session planned with Ken, in Florida. I was thinking about canceling it and just moving on and do something else. And my wife Jan said, "You need to do this. You need to go. You need to go see Ken. Spend a few days and get the crap knocked out of you a little bit," which what Kenny ended up doing. He never minces words, and Jan, you really said, "You need to go do this. We're fine. Whatever you decide to do, we're fine. But you need to spend these days with Kenny." So then, fast forward, things started to happen. After those 3 or 4 days, things got better and better and better, as we went along, and I had a really nice U.S. Open at Oakland Hills the week before Memphis. Finished in the top 15, and really felt like my game was really coming around. And that week, like you said, was I in the zone? Well, I don't remember a lot of it, honestly. So I guess that means that you were in the zone. You're in that little bubble. I never carried a yardage book, and I relied on my caddy, so much. Especially that week, Frank Williams was on the bag, and a great caddy. He won, the Open Championship with Stuart Sink. He's won many, many, many golf tournaments. He would give me a number. I would pull a club. I would hit a shot. I'd go tap in for birdie, and we would go to the next hole. It was just, that's the way it was all week. It was incredible. I was hardly ever in between clubs. I took advantage. I think I only made one bogey for the week. So that means I made like 27 birdies in one bogey. And most of them were 12 feet and in. I mean, it was pretty incredible. I drove the ball great. And you get those Zoysia fairways where the ball's sitting up on a tee, and you had pretty soft bent greens at the time. You know what? It just I was free swinging all week. So yeah, it was a very, very special week. I wish on Sunday I would have putted a little better. I hit the ball extremely well, but I didn't make anything. And I shot a couple under to win by, I think, 7 or 8. I don't remember, honestly. But it was a special week.
Cookie, as we look ahead to next year's U.S. Open, it's going to be played in my hometown of Pittsburgh at Oakmont. You were in the thick of it at the 94 U.S. Open there. You finished a couple of strokes out of the playoff. What do you remember about that week and what it was like playing at Oakmont?
I remember it was hot as hell, Chris. It was smoking hot, and it was humid. I had to qualify that year. Making the Ryder Cup team did not exempt you for a U.S. Open. So I had to qualify. I qualified at Lake Merced in Northern California. And I know I do remember, like, on a Monday, I think our son Jason had a huge baseball tournament, and I stayed on Monday. I didn't travel to Tuesday, so I only had one little practice round on Wednesday, and I was playing really well, and I got a great look at the golf course. I felt really comfortable there. I had been there before, had played it a number of times, felt comfortable. Heat did not bother me at all. And two things I remember that have barely anything to do with golf. Number one was I remember playing on Friday, and it was Arnold's farewell. And I was in the group behind Arnold and Rocco, and I forget who else was in that group. And I shot 65 on Friday. And so I'm going into the media center in the media tent to do a post round, Q&A with, the mob in there. And Arnold's in there, giving his farewell. Now I'm standing in the back watching Arnold give his farewell, and I'm just going, oh my God, I got to follow the king. Are you kidding me? And so it was my turn to get up on the podium. And sure enough, I looked around, and the swarm had followed Arnold out of the media center. And I had like 3 guys I was talking to. So I get done with that, and that's all fine. I go, cool myself down. I go back to the hotel. I take a shower. I get him. It's just hot as can be, and I'm just laying on the bed, turning on a basketball game. I think it was the Lakers and the Rockets. I think were playing. It wasn't an NBA final, but it was maybe the whatever, the Western Conference Finals or whatever it was. Getting ready to watch the Lakers play, and it's the OJ chase.
Right.
And I'm going, well, then they're going to break away from this, and the Lakers have to be on. I mean, that was It never came on. They interrupted the whole Laker game for the OJ chase. I'm going, oh my God, what a week this is going to be. And I had a really nice weekend. I played good on Sunday. I had a nice putt chance on 18, about a 12-footer. That if I'd have made and posted, things might have turned out differently. But Oakmont's always been special. My mother's from Western Pennsylvania, not too far from Pittsburgh. And so Oakmont's always held a real special place in my heart.
Speaking of putting, the greens at Oakmont are legendary. How did you find trying to putt those greens?
I loved them. I played a lot at Muirfield in college. I played those bent greens. I had a lot of amateur success. Had other success on bent greens. Poana, actually, those are more Poana than bent. So I understood the greens, and fast greens did not bother me at all. I understood where you needed to be. I was always pretty good controller of my golf ball, so I could put the golf ball in the correct places. A lot of time, you just need to know where you are to putt uphill, and I kind of knew that around Oakmont. And so I had a nice week putting. I was always an average putter, but when I had chances to win, I usually had a pretty good week putting. So it was a nice week putting.
Just a couple more before I let you go, John. And one of the most impressive things that I've seen on your Instagram page is the Cook family anniversary tradition of enjoying Domino's pizza with a bottle of Dom Perignon. How did that tradition come about?
We call it Dom and Dom, and it hasn't been all 44 years, 45 coming up, but it's been a majority of them. It just, we always wanted to, if Jan and I didn't go to a special anniversary and go somewhere, we were always home. And we just kind of incorporated that including the kids. And we would order Domino's pizza, and we would open a bottle of Dom Perignon, and there we have Dom and Dom night for our anniversary.
That's awesome.
It's fun. We got to keep things fun.
Indeed. And speaking of the kids, before I let you go, give us an update. How they doing?
Everybody's great. Kristen is here in the Phoenix area with us. We're in Scottsdale. She's just down valley a little bit. She and her husband are doing really well. She's in real estate, doing quite nicely. And then daughter Courtney's still in Australia with our 12-year-old granddaughter. She's playing soccer, and Courtney's still she's our artist, and she's coaching Colette's soccer team, and they're undefeated this season so far, so they're doing a nice job and having a great time. And Jason is doing great. He's in Austin, Texas. He works for Discovery Land Company. He's in the agronomy part, no longer in the professional golf part, but he a couple years ago went back to Penn State at 34 years old and graduated Penn State in turfgrass management, and he's at Driftwood Golf and Ranch Club. They're just a new Discovery property southwest of Austin, and he's part of the grounds crew, and he runs a crew on the weekend, and he's moving up the ladder a little bit, and he's having a blast. He's loving what he's doing. He's outside all day, and he still gets a chance to play some golf. And if I had his golf swing and his game with a brain that I have, man, that would be a lethal combination, because he still hits it good, man. He hits it good. It's fun to watch. So thank you for asking, but the family's incredible. Very blessed.
That's wonderful. Cookie, before I let you go, remind our listeners, how can they stay up to date with you and all the great things you're out there doing, whether they're following you on social media, or are we going to get to see you doing some more on the Champions Tour as well?
Yeah, we're going to do more television. The rest of the year really is more PGA Tour Champions events. I'm doing the U.S. Amateur at Hazeltine in a couple weeks, which is always fun to do. It's, like you said in my intro, it's something very close to me, the U.S. Am. So I love doing that. So we'll be doing that, more PGA Tour Champs events, some NCAA stuff in the fall as the fall schedule starts to fall into place, and the programs are gearing up for the run to the NCAAs next year in the end of May there at La Costa again. So I'll be very, very busy doing some television work, and just very blessed to be still part of this great game. But so that'll be a lot of fun. On X, I'm John Cook Golf. On Instagram, on JN Cook OSU. And that's mostly a lot more for family and in golf stuff. But yeah, you can follow me on that. And it's always fun to stay in touch with people. I think a lot of people appreciate what I do on television. I just talk like I'm just like a golfer, like we're just watching golf on TV. That's what I want to portray, and hopefully they get a kick out of it. Sometimes they get a little pushback on some stuff, but you know what? Hey, that's okay. I can tell you how to win. I can tell you how I lost. So got to appreciate both.
Absolutely. Cookie, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come back and be a part of the show. It's always a huge thrill when I get to spend some time with you. I hope this privilege comes around soon.
Anytime, Chris. It's always a blast.
Take care, John. All the best to you and your family. We'll catch up soon.
You too. Thank you.
See you, John. That is the great John Cook, folks, and they just don't come better than that guy. Not just like he said at the end, as he is a broadcaster, he is just trying to portray to all of us what it's like to be out there, what it's like to be a golfer, what it's like to win, and what it's like to lose. And when he comes on the show and he shares his thoughts and his insights, it's just like you're talking to one of your buddies. And that's what I love about Cookie the most. He is just one of the most wonderful people in this game, whether it's as a broadcaster or when he was a player. A treat to watch, a treat to talk to, and he's fantastic to follow. So make sure at John Cook Golf is where you're going to find him on Twitter. At JN Cook OSU is where you're going to find him on Instagram. And hopefully we get the privilege of having him back on the show again before too long. Thanks to John for being a part of the show. Always a huge thrill. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on part one of this week's show. My sincere thanks again to Tom Patri and John Cook for making it so much fun for me to be a part of. I hope you really enjoyed it as well. Please come back for part two, when I will have Wisconsin Golf Hall of Famer and a member of the Golf Writers Association of America, Gary D'Amato, will make his return visit. Plus, I'll get a return visit from Champions Tour pro Guy Boros. So it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of information, a lot of great stories. I hope you'll come back and be a part of it with us. Until then, hit 'em straight, my friends.